Welcome to this introduction to anthropology focused on ancient Egypt. For the 2020 school year, we will be looking at anthropological concepts and then applying them to the culture and history of the ancient Egyptians. I'm Dr. Scott King Owen, and let's go walk through our course syllabus together. So first thing I'd like to say is that this course is designed to be lecture and discussion. There are things that I'm going to lecture on. There are lots of things that we're going to discuss as we take ideas from anthropology, concepts from anthropology, and then just apply them to ancient Egypt and see how anthropology can illuminate the lives of the ancient Egyptians. We don't have a textbook, so when I give you things to read, it will be electronically on Canvas. Please note that even though we are focusing on ancient Egypt, because I absolutely love ancient Egypt, you were encouraged to apply the anthropological concepts to other cultures. So you can say, let's look at this in US culture, or even maybe Bexley culture if you wanted to get really local. So by no means am I saying we can only look at ancient Egypt. We can think about other places and bring in other examples and get a cross-cultural point of view. Our pace is going to be relaxed. Being that this is an elective class, my goal is to give you some knowledge, help expose you to some key ideas in anthropology, but not burden you with a whole lot of work. We're not trying to make this AP anthropology. We're trying to simply enjoy learning about the culture of ancient Egypt. So we'll be a little bit more chill than in a regular year-long class. Obviously, the big thing on everybody's mind is the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. And assuming that at some point we could be in the classroom, I do want to go over some very important ground rules for you. These are ground rules for all of us to help try to keep us as safe as possible. Everyone needs to wear a mask. It's about limiting the spread of the droplets that contain the virus. And that means you should also try to avoid interactions that might pass those droplets. So we shouldn't be in each other's faces in school talking loudly and laughing and having the kind of interactions where you might pass along the illness. And I know the science on the virus is changing. Every time I look at the news, we find something new about this virus. And, we've gone from children don't really get it to, oh, children really do. Oh, children actually have it in large numbers to kids age 10 and up pass the virus on at the same level as adults. So keep in mind that everything we know about this illness changes. Everything we know about its long-term effects is going to change. So I'm asking you guys to be safe because we still are learning about what could happen. And it would be horrifically heartbreaking if, for example, someone you know and loved got this illness and it did heart damage, as we're finding out that the virus does, because of your carelessness or my carelessness. I care about you and I don't want you to get sick either. Limit your circle of contact. That's one of the best ways to be safe. The more people you come into contact with, the more likely you will be in contact with someone with the virus. This virus depends on people interacting in large numbers. So you're better if your circle is small and you choose to only hang out with very specific people. And the people that you hang out with, they have to keep their circles small too, because if you hang out with somebody who has been exposed by someone else, that's how this spreads. So we're safest if we all take care of each other and just think about our contacts with the outside world. If we are in school, only one person can go to the bathroom at a time. Don't interact with each other in the hallways or in the restrooms. Don't put yourself at risk. It's just not smart, because if you're at risk, we're all at risk since we're sharing a space together. Keep a 6-foot distance. That's challenging because we like to be close to people and we like to hug people, and human contact is so very important to us, so for psychological reasons, and it's the way we're wired. But if we want to be able to continue to hug those people that we love in the future, we need to be safe and stamp this virus out by changing our behavior. And finally, if you feel sick, stay home. Why take a chance? If you've got a sore throat and you don't know if it's COVID or just a regular old cold, well, it would be better if you stayed home and were taking care of yourself. Um, I know it's not easy to know if you are sick with it, because tests for it aren't reliable usually until 5 days in from exposure. But play it safe as you possibly can. How will you be graded in this class? Well, we're going to have every 2 weeks reflection papers. These are chances for you to think about what you're learning, process that material, and they're kind of wide open into how you do it. You could take something we've talked about and explore it further. You want to find out more, so you research more. You could take something that was said by anybody in the class and disagree and argue against it. You could apply that material to something new. So we've learned an anthropological concept, and it makes you think about how that might, be applied to life in Bexley. You could bring up something that you've learned, perhaps a new archaeological discovery or a new perspective on ancient Egypt. All of those sorts of things are fair game for the reflections, which should be about 200 to 300 words. You'll be submitting these on Canvas, as long as we are in the process of doing distance learning. So every bit of your work will be electronic. There will be 3 exams. The exams will be written by you. So you will decide in the week before the exam with your classmates what terms and short answer questions would be appropriate for the exam. I will take what you create, and then I will write up an exam based on that and edit, judiciously where needed. And then you also have a research project as a culminating part of the class. So essentially, that's where your grades will come from in this course. Obviously, with the distance learning portion of the class, the electronic connection to Canvas, to email is very essential. And of course, I know there are challenges and difficulties with that. From internet access to having, a reliable device that does that, sharing devices with siblings who are also doing distance learning. So we'll do the best we can. Reach out to me when you need help, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. But you've got to try to stay connected as much as possible, because you don't want to miss things. I will be looking at your Canvas progress, because that's how I will judge your attendance on days that we are not meeting in Zoom. We are required by Ohio law to track attendance and make sure that you're not truant. Obviously, too, it's a little bit of an accountability measure for you, just to make sure that you just don't, disappear from the face of the earth and never interact. 3 times per week, we'll be using Zoom to check in. And in those times, my preference is to have discussions and to talk through course material, reactions to the things that we're reading. We may not use the entire time on Monday, Wednesday, Friday when we check in. And if we don't use the entire time, I will dismiss you and you're free to do work, move on to something else that you need to do. The school is requiring that Zoom be used to take attendance. So that's how we will meet the Ohio mandate to make sure that you're, not skipping. Keep in mind that Zoom is really still an extension of the classroom. So you do need to dress appropriately. I don't care if you're in your pajamas. I will probably dress down and be relaxed as well. But we do need to act in the same way as if we were in the classroom. Because Zoom is a window into your home, feel free to hide your background. Zoom does allow you to post an image in the background, and that way people don't have to see your room or see what else is going on there. You're free to keep the privacy level the way you want it to. Please stay muted until you need to speak. If you're not muted, what I say echoes back to me, and it's really, really weird. So just go ahead and put yourself on mute as soon as you log in, and then you can unmute when you need to talk or interact with people. So the main way that you'll be keeping in touch and seeing what's going on is through Canvas and the calendar that I create on Canvas. In the syllabus, there is a generic calendar that sort of lists what we're doing a little bit per week. You can see, the first week of school, really it's August 24th to 28th. We're just going to look at the concept of culture, a little bit of the history of anthropology, kind of get our footing in what is anthropology. The second week, we're going to look at the origins of the ancient Egyptians and talk about biological anthropology, or the evolution of the human species. Then it's going to be environmental anthropology, and we'll talk about the Egyptian landscape. We'll be looking at the state, the ancient Egyptian pharaonic state. We'll talk about language and linguistic anthropology, the economy and food. So we're not necessarily going to march history-wise through ancient Egyptian history. I will try to do some of that as we go, so you can have a sense of how the history of ancient Egypt works. But really, this will be more of a cultural study of the ancient Egyptians. So stay on top of Canvas, because each of these units will have a page. That page will be your one-stop shop for what we're doing for that particular week. And whatever changes are need to be made, they will be made on Canvas as I respond to what you need and whatever else happens to be going on in the world. The syllabus also lists the core content that we're going to be taking a look at. And we'll have a list of anthropological concepts like culture and ethnography and artifact and ethnocentrism. That's listed in the vocabulary list. And then the second half of the vocabulary list deals with some of the things from ancient Egypt that we will apply to. So you'll be learning what, a mastaba is, or what the heck the Narmer palette is. I've also got some key questions for you because these are designed to make you think broadly about the course content. And you can use them to launch maybe one of your weekly reflection papers. This could be very useful for that. Or just to shape your own thinking about what we're learning. Sometimes I'm going to lecture on this material. Other times I will give you something to interact with. So it will be some kind of source that I will hand out. Sometimes I'll send you to certain websites to look at artifacts because they're best viewed that way. If we're in school, I will have some artifacts that we can handle, we can actually touch, but that's not looking very likely, looking very much like everything will be online for a while. So the internet will be our friend. You'll culminate the course with your own individual research project to bring together all that we've done. And there are several ways you can go. You could take the anthropology and apply it to another culture. Maybe you're interested in something in the ancient Greek world or Native American world, maybe a contemporary culture that you want to investigate. Or perhaps you want to explore some other aspect of ancient Egyptian history that we did not cover, because we won't cover all of ancient Egyptian history. Pretty much everything that I will talk about will end with the New Kingdom of ancient Egypt. So we'll probably not make it past the 18th and 19th dynasties. Some of the big names in ancient Egypt in those time periods, like Tutankhamun, Ramses, for example. So there might be other things that you're interested in, or there may be other topics that we just, did not get to. There's a lot to talk about with ancient Egypt. I mean, you can get a PhD in it. Your project is going to result in a presentation of you informally sharing what you found with your peers. So you'll have about 5 minutes to say, I researched this, and here's what I came up with, here's what I learned. So you'll get a presentation grade, an informal sharing grade, but you will also turn in some kind of physical product. And being that we will probably be distance learning, that physical product will have some limitations. So a paper, because that can be emailed just fine, a PowerPoint presentation can be emailed. You could create a web page or some kind of like electronic format to explore your project. But it's not going to be possible, I don't think, for us to turn in things physically, since we will not likely be in school. You will also need a bibliography of scholarly sources, and we do have access to some via the library's pages. I will be putting together of some of the most trustworthy things that you can find on the internet for ancient Egypt. Believe me, there is a lot of hogwash out there for ancient Egypt. People who are totally, absolutely not in their right mind. I do have an extensive library. I probably have like 150 books on ancient Egypt. So I'll be able to do some research for you, point you in the direction of scholarly material as well. And if need to be, I will photograph those pages from my stuff and send it to you. So we will do this the best that we can, depending on if we're in school or if we have to do everything electronically. So that's the syllabus in a nutshell for this class. If you have questions, please certainly get in contact with me. I welcome whatever you're thinking and whatever you need clarification on. I'm really looking forward to this class. My first introduction to ancient Egypt was in the 7th grade. I checked out a book in the library about a young boy who decides to go exploring in ancient Egypt, and he gets lost in the pyramids, the pyramids of Giza. And he's in one of the pyramids when his dad finds him, and his dad says, well, let me tell you the history of this land. And so I was just bitten, smitten, in fact, by the history of ancient Egypt. And I have read so much and learned so much over the years. At one point, I was pretty literate in the language of ancient Egyptian, not so much anymore, because if you don't use it, you lose it. But I still, every time there's something about ancient Egypt on TV or a new book comes out, I am just super excited. And so that excitement is coursing in my head all the time as I'm prepping to teach you this class, and I just can't wait. This is going to be so much fun. Take care, and we'll see you in August online.